Anonymous are a group of hackers and online activists that have been featured in the mainstream media. Not only are their discoveries interesting, but no one really knows who they are. One of the first founders of the organization went on Reddit and did an interview. One of the questions that was asked was who is Anonymous and what's their goal, to which they responded with the following. Anonymous has all walks of life. The most infamous is obviously the hacker type, but just as important are the ones that mobilize online and spread awareness. Do research and collaborate in that manner. If you have a voice, you can help Anonymous. When asked what future members of Anonymous will be tackling, he said the following. Privacy rights, big data, monolithic megacorporations owning everything about your life. End quote. This response received the most upvotes and created an interesting discussion around billionaires, how much wealth one person should own, along with other interesting talking points. It's important to note that pretty much anyone can claim they're part of Anonymous. Recently, several members of the group came forward and said that the US space agency NASA is getting ready to release information on alien life. The group posted the following. NASA says aliens are coming. End quote. The group has said it's come to this conclusion based on how the conversation has changed on the alien topic, saying that people like astronauts are more openly talking about them, and that the government are saying that they've had encounters with these beings, saying that over the last 100 years mysterious crafts have made contact with our planet, and these are unlike anything that we've ever built. Not only this, but the group also point out the UFO sightings and amateur researchers have played a big part in this, saying that these everyday people have managed to create a talking point that's now being taken seriously. Although the group made these claims a while back, something to note is that not long after these claims an incredible announcement was made by Eric Davis. According to Eric Davis, the astrophysicist claims that the United States Department of Defense is in possession of a recovered off-world craft that is verifiably not made on our planet. His story that was detailed to the New York Times claims that Davis was tasked with giving classified briefings to Defense Department agencies, the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee last October. During multiple instances of recovered materials from extraterrestrial events, Davis details that he was unable to determine the source of the materials that made up the recovered artifacts, most likely being off-world metals or materials that could not have been terrestrial in nature. Interestingly, following the supposed claims of briefings to the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Intelligence Authorization Act was passed by the Senate, which orders the program to report at least a fraction of its findings to the general public within 180 days after the passing of the act. This could very well mean that within the next few months, eventual disclosure of the project and the advanced recovered extraterrestrial materials will be slowly released to the general public. Although skeptics have been quick to claim that Eric W. Davis is nothing more than a fraud making outrageous claims, key figures have also come forward to back up the claims of Davis, including the former director of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerial Identification Threat Program, Louis Elizondo. Additionally, in regards to the program and its ties to the passing of the Intelligence Authorization Act, former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid commented that he'd been involved in the effort and hopes that the UFO investigation program will seek further evidence of other potential recoveries of extraterrestrial crafts. Even the acting chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Marco Rubio, provided an official statement in which he says the following. Maybe there is a completely sort of boring explanation for it, but we need to find out. End quote. Expressing concern that the increased reports of unidentified crafts over American military bases is definitely seen as a threat, not only to the national security of the United States but also the general public. Although Marco Rubio believes the sightings could be attributed to a possible technological leap made by China or Russia, Eric Davis and Louis Elizondo are far more certain of the craft originating from an off-world source. Across several interviews for mass media news outlets, Louis Elizondo claims that not only did these crafts exhibit behaviours that appear to defy the very laws of aviation, but that these crafts were found to be 100% not man-made and were out of the scope of human capabilities. His reasoning for this claim was that the crafts investigated demonstrated hypersonic capabilities, that is described as being far beyond the scope that is physically tolerable by a human being, of whom would experience a high amount of G's to the point that it would either be fatal or seriously wound them. This meant that whoever or whatever was piloting these aircrafts appeared to be non-human. Not only this, but the technological developments of these crafts also made it very apparent that the creation of these unidentified flying objects were vastly superior to anything man-made. Luis Elizondo describes in one of his many reports regarding the subject matter as the following: "There is a lot we really don't know. We have identified anomalous aircraft, craft that does not have the obvious flight surfaces, forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability, beyond the healthy G-forces of anything biological. These aircraft will call them aircrafts display capabilities not in the US arsenal, or any other militaries." End quote. For years, everyday people have been reporting strange things in our sky. Recently though, this has changed. We now have Navy and Army officials, along with scientists, researchers and pilots detailing their accounts. Even former presidents have opened up about what they know. Another part of this topic is those that believe they've been taken onto these crafts. Oddly enough, many of these accounts seem to follow a similar theme. Usually the person complains about missing time. They will normally feel ill, with symptoms including nausea, headaches and having sensitive skin. Their clothes may have been ripped or torn, but they can never seem to remember the events that could have caused this to happen. Some of them have gone on to see doctors and practitioners that claim they are able to unlock memories, and they do this by using various techniques, including hypnosis and age regression. After these have been performed, some of those then go on to remember the events, saying that they were taken on board a mysterious craft, and even communicated with mysterious entities. Although not everyone who goes through this needs repressed memory therapy, many do, and this is where the problems start. The idea of repressed memory therapy is controversial. Although many researchers have said our brains can theoretically repress memories, and even offer ways to help bring these out, there's no proof that is real. The brain is very complex, and there's still many things we don't understand about it. Many of the individuals that are taken on board these crafts just want answers. They feel vulnerable. They want to know the truth about what happened to them. Many are not involved in the UFO phenomena and have no interest in telling their story. Although it sounds like an interesting topic, many of the stories actually come across as terrifying. Although the majority say they were not harmed, they go on to detail that they were taken against their will, held down by an invisible force, and was able to communicate with mysterious beings via telepathy. All of those things go against our teaching and what we know, so the encounters leaves the individuals lost and confused. There's also been men and women who have said that these beings have done tests on them, and these revolve around using humans to reproduce. For those unaware, believers and those who have been taken on board these crafts have said that they have had certain fluids taken from their bodies, and when asked, these entities have told them their species can no longer reproduce, so they use human DNA in order to carry on their species. As of right now, scientists are of course completely against this idea, and have said that we have no proof whatsoever that something like this is going on. But a researcher at the University of Oxford in England has said that these encounters are real. The university professor Young Hai Chi, who teaches Korean, went on to detail that not only does he believe this is happening, but that he thinks he might know why. During some of his lectures, he has shared his opinion on the topic, and said these entities are creating hybrids, and says that the proof behind this theory is the increase in reports. To support his theory, Chi says that after looking at the data, he's noticed that reports have increased every year. He said that one of the reasons why this is happening is so that humans will be better adapted to this planet, saying that climate change and greenhouse gases are causing a runaway effect. He notes that these encounters are a reaction to global warming that we're living through, saying that these entities are creating a new Homo sapiens species that will be better adapted to the planet, and notes that over the last few decades they've been doing this and changing our DNA, saying that in the future don't be surprised if something comes along that will change our DNA. He goes on to note that many of these entities are living among us, and that we don't even realise it. He said this has been happening for years, and that these hybrids are created to mix with the general population, saying that most people wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. He said the following to NBC: "The first generation hybrids still have physical features distinctive to aliens, but from the second generation they have almost identical body features from those of humans, although they may still carry at least 1/4 of alien genes." He ends by saying that they live among us, and have been for years now. Not everyone buys this idea though, and some have said these theories are based on nothing. Some have said though that it must be tough if something like this happens to you, and that when you try to talk to someone about it, you're branded as being unstable. As mentioned earlier, the majority of people who experience this just want answers. Scientists have said that sleep paralysis could explain these encounters, and why individuals genuinely believe that they've been taken by something unknown. Between 8 and 50% of people will experience this phenomenon at some point in their lives. 5% will even experience it more than once. Sleep paralysis overtakes you when you're in a state between sleep and wakefulness. A person is alert, but unable to move or speak. It's as if you're in sleep mode, and your body knows that, but your brain is alert. And if sudden unusual paralysis wasn't enough, sleep paralysis is often accompanied by a strong sense of fear and hallucinations. Those who have gone through this ordeal though have said the two aren't the same. Interestingly, going back a while ago, Dr. Helen Sharman made the news after making an interesting statement. She said that aliens exist, and it's possible that they're among us on Earth. She said the following: "Aliens exist. There's no two ways about it. There must be all sorts of different forms of life among the billions of stars." Dr. Sharman is known as being the first British astronaut, and the first woman to visit the Mir space station in May of 1991. Her take on aliens is that they could be here right now, and we may not be aware of it. So what do you make of these comments? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.